If you really want to know about female autism, the two people I found to be very helpful and very thorough with their information. One was Sarah Hendrickx from the UK, and she wrote a book about it and has very good presentations on female autism on YouTube. This is the video. It's over an hour long. Very good presentation. And the other one is Tania Marshall from Australia. She wrote the book Aspien Women and the other one AspienGirl. And she has a wonderful list of traits. Tania Marshall is a psychologist herself. She compiled this list after working with many women on the spectrum. The list is based on her clinical anecdotal evidence and research by other well-known professionals. There is a very good video by Stephanie Bettany on the very same list by Tania Marshall. She reads the whole thing, so I will not be doing the same, but I will put the link in the description so you can listen to her video instead.
Hello everyone in Argentina. It's a pleasure to speak to you all the way from Australia. I was honoured to be invited to introduce the first symposium on female autism, and again I am proud to be invited to speak to you at the second symposium of Women on the Autism Spectrum on day 2 about the neurodiversity within the female profile or the phenotype of autism. I am the author of I Am AspienGirl, Soy AspienGirl, and I Am Aspien Woman, and I work in private practice with females and males on the spectrum. However, my books, blog, and websites do focus on the female phenotype due to the high needs of females and what I call the female autism crisis. I believe it's a crisis because for so long females have been left behind.
Yes.
There are few diagnostic tools for females, and gold standard assessment tools are failing females. There is a high need for assessment tools across the lifespan. It's also a crisis because it is not generally recognized that females will have autism, and it presents quite differently from males, but not always. This is the neurodiversity within the female group. I wrote my blog Moving Towards a Female Profile of Asperger's to start to explore the unique phenotype of females on the autism spectrum. And in my work with females, I am finding that there is no one stereotypical profile of a female on the spectrum. In my work and experience, there appear to be many subtypes within this group. There are many factors that can account for this, including the severity of the traits and characteristics, which range from mild to severe, the kind of family you were raised in, the culture, the person's personality type, coexisting conditions, whether the person had a mentor or role model, and any protective factors. And IQ as well seems to be a factor. It appears anecdotally that females with higher IQs are more readily able to compensate for their social deficits, meaning that they learn quickly how to fit in through a variety of means. We call these compensatory strategies. Some of these females are so good at doing this that it would take a very experienced clinician to see through the cracks. And we are concerned about where the girls with autism might be, of course, and how we can find them, because they're the lost girls or the lost women, or as I refer to them, the lost generation. So when I'm talking about a late diagnosis, I'm talking about anything that's after grade 1. For women that I'm meeting and speaking and assessing, we call it a very late diagnosis. And so there is much more help that is needed for those that are falling through the cracks. And some of the clients that I'm working with or have worked with are in very vulnerable groups. So they are homeless, or they are addicted to drugs, or they are prostitutes, or they are in bikie gangs, or they are strippers, or they are in difficult circumstances of circumstances of abuse or domestic violence. So it's very important that we learn how to find the females quickly, that we develop assessment tools, and then develop the appropriate interventions for these girls and women. So the neurodiversity that I'm talking about in relation to my blog is about the subtypes, and so there can be different types of girls, such as the tomboy type, or the princess type, or the horse type, who is interested in horses.
Yeah, that was me.
The princess type is sort of the type that would really, she is the one that's rarely going to get a diagnosis, because she is the one that is seen as fitting in much more so than the other types are fitting in. They are the ones that are joining the cheerleaders teams, or are taking deportment classes or etiquette classes, and becoming supermodels, and so on. These are just a couple of examples from a huge caseload I've had over the years of what I'm learning about is the females that are the ones that are the least likely to get a diagnosis. So those compensatory factors are quite extensive, and I will be writing about those in an upcoming book. But they can range from, give you a couple of examples, going to the library and getting out social skills books or body language books, watching YouTube videos about reading faces and micro expressions and social skills, watching TV shows to learn how people interact, watching and observing people out and about like a psychologist would. So observing and watching and practicing in the mirror. Often they're talking about that kind of thing that they're doing. One example I had was of a young female who, well, actually, when she was a young female, spoke about one comment that was made when she was remembering the comment that was made when she was younger, that she ran funny, as she had a little bit of an odd gait because she had a developmental coordination disorder. And she, as soon as she heard that one comment, she learned how to run properly and smoothly, and that was never addressed again. And then every time somebody said something to her, or she got the feeling that she wasn't doing the right thing, she would just learn how to do it, and really became a social skills expert. And I have one very classic example of a client right now that was just assessed, whose daughter was assessed and diagnosed. And this client actually now teaches deportment, etiquette, and social skills to organizations and businesses. But her history is that she was sent to deportment when she was a teenager because she was very socially awkward, socially anxious, and struggling in many ways. She then went into modeling, became a supermodel, of which I do see many of, and had a great career in that, and has now moved on to sort of more teaching in that area. What do I think the strengths of women on the spectrum are? I have seen incredible strengths. So some of the women or females, younger females that I'm working with are already child actors and actresses, authors, musicians, models. I've got an engineer, computer programmers, just trying to think of my caseload. Considerable strengths like attention to detail, perfectionism, hyperfocus, the ability to be focused for hours at a time on researching a topic or writing a book or perfecting something. So those are some of the strengths. The most frequent diagnostic routes for adult women on the spectrum are usually through the diagnosis of their own child. So their child has had one, and then that makes them begin to think about how they have some of the similar traits. And so that leads them down that road of getting an assessment. Another route of getting an assessment may be through having challenges at work. So they're having challenges socially at work, and they're wondering why, and they might start researching on the internet and come across the female profile, and they sort of have an aha moment and then want to seek an assessment to see if that's the explanation. Another route I find that's quite common is this nagging feeling of I'm different and I don't know why, and I'm going to search this until I find out why. So many of the women will talk about starting on a route of looking at shyness to social anxiety to ADHD to being a highly sensitive person to being an empath to female Asperger's. And so that has been sort of the route that many of the adult females that I see often take. And then when they finally get their diagnosis, they do tend to feel a great sense of relief for a while, and then of course a little bit of depression, which is quite normal when you're grieving some things that are related to the thoughts about what if I had a diagnosis earlier, then this may have happened or not happened. And so we work through that process. I'm a very strength-based psychologist, so I'm often working with female strengths, not ignoring their challenges. But once we get those challenges of anxiety, social communication, sensory issues, and any other coexisting or comorbid issues sorted, we can really see women excel in their particular interests and areas. So I think that we still have a long way to go. We are starting to understand the female profile and the subtypes. We do know the ratio is now 3-to-1 for males to females, and I feel very positive about the future for women on the spectrum. So thank you for having me, and I hope you enjoy your day.